Hey, what's up guys? Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we're going to be starting my project of building a custom do-it-yourself teardrop camper. With that said, let's go and get started. Okay, so I know it's been a while since we posted a video. Sorry about that. We've been busy, but today I'm really excited to start work on a custom teardrop trailer. So I've had this idea. I'm going on a trip this summer where I want to go camp out west, and so I need something to camp in. I don't trust the Bronco to make that long of a drive, so I'm thinking a small teardrop trailer that I can haul behind any car is going to be a much more useful tool for me instead of the Bronco trying to make it cross country. Now, to do this trailer, I went through a ton of different designs and plans and watched so many other YouTube videos of different creators that have built things like this, and I've settled on my own custom design using a lot of their different flares, but basically my own design. Now, to start with this, I did go back and forth for quite a while about whether or not I wanted to build a trailer frame or just go buy one. And ultimately I decided I'm going to build one for a few different reasons. Now, the main reason is because I don't like the quality of the trailer frames that come from the big box stores or from Harbor Freight or from Northern Tool or any of those. Sure, there are plenty of trailers out there that are built on the 4x8 Harbor Freight frame, but I just didn't like the quality of it. I honestly didn't like all of the improvements you had to do to it to make them really roadworthy. Like, at a minimum, you have to switch out the tires, you gotta redo the axle, stuff like that, and you gotta go through and re-weld the whole frame. And I was like, you know what, that seems like a lot of work, and that trailer still costs $550, and you got to change out a bunch of the components anyways. So I thought, why don't I just make one? Basic trailer frames are not very complicated, and as you guys will see on this one, this is going to be a super simple trailer frame. It's really just a rectangle, and that's it. The few things that you got to keep in mind when you're building a trailer frame is axle placement. That's the most important part. You got to make sure that the axle is perfectly perpendicular to the frame of the trailer, and that the two mounts, the two leaf spring hangers, are in the right sides on the underside of it. We'll get to that later on in this video. And then the last thing you want to take into consideration is just structural rigidity and durability of the trailer. So for this, I'm choosing to use 2x2 by 1/8 inch box tube. Now, you could use channel, you can use, a lot of the big box stores use angle iron. I went away from angle iron because technically angle iron is not a structural steel. It is not meant for that kind of stuff. Now, you can get around that with design. So like those big box store trailers have like those vertical uprights that cross over, and that provides the crossbar support that angle iron does not normally have. Because angle iron, as everybody knows that works with steel, can twist and torsion on itself as it's just sitting still. So I went with box tube for that reason, and then also because I want to be able to hide all my wiring inside the tubes. So that's why I picked that. Channel is structural. You can use channel for this. There's a couple different DIY trailer kits available, like from overlandtrailers.com and a couple other places. So channel is an acceptable material to me. I just chose to go with box tube instead. I went kind of thin on the gauge of it because I'm going for weight. So I actually sold my F350 in preparation for a move to Virginia, and so now I have a Subaru Outback. So I want to be able to tow this trailer behind my Subaru Outback, which has a tow rating of 2,700 pounds, but a realistic tow rating, I'd like this trailer to be like more around 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. So that's why I went with this size of tube. Now, I did draw this entire thing on CAD. I have the first of many pictures, or many drawings here that I'm going to be going off of, and when this build is completely finished and I package up all the drawings, they will be available for sale on our Etsy site as well as on our website, legacyfabrications.com. But for this, we're going to use just 2x2 by 1/8 inch box tube to do this frame. We've got to make a whole bunch of cuts, and then I've got some 3/16 plate that I'm going to use as gusset material. So let me go ahead and get started on all of these cuts, and then we'll start laying out this trailer. Now, for the cuts and on my drawing, and if you choose to buy these drawings, this is what you'll get too. You can see that there's a basic layout and engineered drawing of the basic shape of the trailer, as well as a cut list and the other materials that you'll need that aren't just raw steel that you can buy from your steel supplier. So I got to cut all these tubes down. It's going to take 4 sticks of 2x2 by 1/8 inch to make this basic frame, and it's going to take one of those 3/16 plates to make all of the gussets to provide all that extra support. I've built a lot of small trailers in the past for different reasons. I've had some luck and some bad luck with them, good luck and bad luck with them, so let's hope that this one is good luck. Now, Now, the last thing to consider, and one of the things I didn't like about the big box store trailers, is the location of the couplers. And so a lot of them have just single tubes that only go like halfway or 25% of the way down the length of the trailer for the tongue that then matches to the vehicle. For this trailer, and for a few different reasons, mostly for rigidity and structural reasons, I'm choosing to do one full length 2x2 steel tube that goes from the top of the tongue all the way to the back of the trailer. That way, I'm thinking anyways, after I bolt everything together and weld everything up, that no matter what, the tube that is connecting the trailer to the vehicle is always going to be there. I could break my sidearms, my structurals, my wings, etc., but the tube that connects the trailer to the car is always going to be there, and the whole length of the trailer is going to be mounted into that singular tube. It's going to be mounted into the wings and all the other stuff too, but you're going to have bolt poles digging it into that tube. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I got to cut all these things to length, and then I'll bring you guys back in. So we got everything all cut to size. I spared you guys from having to watch me use the chop saw for the last half hour, but we've got everything all cut down. So for the list here, we've got a 12-foot stick, 2 8-foot sticks, 8 27-inch sticks, and 2 52-inch sticks. Now I do have about 10 feet of complete steel left, as well as a bunch of the little cutoff pieces for this. The cutoff pieces are going to be used to make little outriggers that aren't shown on the drawing for like lights and things like that, and then I'll use that 10-foot stick to do supports, maybe some gusset material, etc., throughout the trailer to really strengthen its rigidity. I don't want to add too much weight to this because I don't want to overweigh the trailer, but I do want to have enough structure in it that I'm comfortable towing it down the road. So we got all that done. Now the next thing I've got to do is I've got to drill some holes. So I'm going to be running my wires through this center tube, and I've got to drill these holes before I weld it all together because I won't have access to them after the fact. So I like the idea of running wires through center tubes or through any tubes because it protects them and keeps them away from like moisture and other random stuff on the road. Now the one downside that people have to running wires through tubes like this is that if you have to service them, it can be very challenging or impossible. Now in this case, I'm going to run it down this center tube, one wiring harness the whole way down, and I'm going to put a plastic cap on the other end of it on the back end of the trailer. Now what that's going to give me the option to do is if I do have to service these wires, I can easily just pull the whole wire loom out through the one tube of the trailer and then do whatever service I have to do to it. So I'm not that worried about it, and hopefully by being in the tube of the trailer, it'll protect these so that I'm not ever going to have to service them. But the idea is to run them down the center tube, drill holes in the side of the center tube so I can wing them out to the edges of the trailer to where the two lights are. I'm going really simple on the lighting plan for this trailer because it's a simple trailer, so I'm just going to do the DOT mandated brake lights on the side. So should be pretty straightforward. But anyways, let me grab a drill. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch hole. We'll eventually grommet those later on, but we're going to drill out those holes now. 2 in the rear on those 2 in the rear of the 8-foot ones, and 2 at the front of the 12-foot ones. So let me go ahead and get all of those things all drilled, and then I'll bring you guys back over once we have the trailer laid out on the table. Okay, so I've not welded anything yet. All I've done is lay this out on the table. Now, a couple things. If you don't have a nice Certiflat table like I do, you can do this on the ground. You just want to be super careful that you get it all perfectly level and that you have it perfectly square. For me, the biggest thing I have to look for is that it's perfectly square and that center tube is perfectly straight perpendicular through the middle of this trailer frame. The Certified table makes this super easy. I've got the different holes lined up, I've got my little table dogs on it, and I can use my table because my table is a 5x8, or well, my table is a 4x5, but I can lay out the 5x8 trailer on top of the table really nicely. So I was able to line it up perfectly with the table, using the table dogs to make sure the center tube was perfectly straight, and then using a couple of my center supports to make sure I don't get any deflection. Now go through and check square dozens of times. I checked it off of the top corners, I checked it off of the small center corners here, I checked it to the back, I checked it all over. So I did about 12 different checks to make sure that this thing was square. Now again, if you're doing this on the ground or on a regular table, just make sure it's perfectly level. I know the Certiflat table is level enough to my standards that this is going to be totally fine. So with that said, I'm going to tack weld the corners. I'm going to do kind of a heavy tack, and then I'm going to check square again, and then I'm going to come back through after that and add in the rest of these supports, tack weld those into place, and then check square one more time while this thing is sitting on the table. My goal is to do as much of the trailer frame welding on the table as I can so that I know I have it perfectly flat, perfectly square, and everything is good to go for it. When all of that is done, I'll go through after I check square one more time and fully weld everything, and then I'll go through and clean it and start adding in gussets. But I'm gonna check square one more time just to satisfy my own OCD, and then I'm gonna go through and tack weld this. So moving on to the front of the trailer. So we've got all of the crossbars and everything else all finished up. So now moving on to the front to get this portion of it finished up. Now I'm using this is one of the trailer couplers you can buy at Harbor Freight. This happens to be a 2-inch ball for a 2.5-inch tube. So, I mean, it's a trailer coupler. They are what they are. So they're all about the same as far as I'm concerned, just all stamped steel. But this is the one that we're gonna be using on this. Now, at the front of the trailer, as you heard me just say, that's for a 2-inch ball, which is a little bit overkill. I'm hoping this trailer comes in around 1,200 pounds. A 2-inch ball is good out to 3,500 pounds, or 3,500 pounds for that class of a hitch. But I have 2-inch balls on all of my other things, and so I want the trailer to have the same type of ball as everything else, so I don't have to like switch out hitches to move a different trailer around or anything like that. So, because I couldn't go any smaller than 2.5-inch tube though, I had to find something to reinforce the front end of the trailer. So I also at Harbor Freight picked up one of their receiver tubes. These are regular 2-inch receiver tubes. They're the things that if you're gonna make a do-it-yourself bumper or something like that, you would use that so that you had a receiver tube on the rear. I cut off the end of it and then I ground down the finish on it so that there wasn't any paint. It's an 18-inch receiver tube. This happens to be exactly 2.5 inches wide with a 2-inch inner, which makes it perfect to put over top of a piece of 2-inch tube. Now, to tie that in though, I'm gonna keep that one bolt hole that is normally for the pin on the receiver hitch. I kept that, I flipped the receiver hitch around, and I'm gonna install that bolt on the back of it. I'm also gonna weld this into place as well, of course, but I'm gonna have that bolt there as a secondary little piece to help line everything up and keep it all square. I'm doing a angular crossbar. As you can see, here's one of them. So as you guys saw from the picture, this is the angular crossbars for the front. So we're gonna do that tied into the receiver tube. So that way the receiver tube is gonna be welded on the front and rear of it. It's gonna have a bolt through the rear of it, and then it's gonna be welded into these crossbars, which are then gonna be welded into the main frame of the trailer. So that's what we got going on here. I'll show you guys real quick what it looks like. So you can see this is what it looks like here. I've got that side all welded in already. This bolt hole here is just an added extra piece of security. If at the point that all of these welds on the front and the welds on the corners all fail, I don't think this bolt's going to do very much good, but the hole was already there, so I kept it. I haven't gone through and finish welded. This is all just tack welded. But this is what it's going to look like kind of from the front. I like having a nice long crossbar on them. I know that you don't necessarily need to have that long of a crossbar, but I like it. Big angle makes big trunk trailers, so we're going to go with it. It might a little bit affect the trailer's ability to back up because you're not going to be able to turn as far due to the fact that you have this crossbar here, but that's okay. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, but that's what it's looking like. So I didn't really say it earlier, but just to be clear, this is the top of the trailer as you see it sitting on the welding table. So what you see up here is the top. So I've gone through and done all this welding. Before I'm done, I'm gonna have to go through and smooth out these center ones, these ones that are all on these butt welds. I'm gonna flatten them all out because I am gonna be putting a piece of wood on top of all of this. So I'm gonna flatten them all out. Once that's done and I have all my corner gussets installed, I will flip the trailer over, and with the trailer then on the top on the table, I will do those last little welds. I've only got 3 of the 4 sides welded right now, so I'll do the last welds on that side, smooth all those out, and then go through and add my little corner braces and gussets on the underside of the trailer. So you're currently looking on the table at the top of the trailer. But anyways, I'm gonna turn the camera off. I'm gonna go through here and I'm gonna finish welding everything and clean it all up and get this other angle up there. So moving on. Okay, so this is what the front of the trailer looks like. I think this is super sturdy. I think this is gonna do really well personally. I'm gonna put a tongue box on the front of it. I know that I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna lay a piece of plate down I'm gonna play with that. I might add a little piece of like thin plate up here so you got something to step on if I need to get up on top of the trailer for some reason, but we'll play with that for a little bit. You can see I've got all the holes drilled. I don't have the bolts through it right now, but everything to include the coupler is fully welded. It's a little annoying because if I had to replace the coupler, I'm gonna have to cut that whole thing off, but whatever. Hopefully I don't have to replace the coupler anytime soon. Now I got all of this done. Next I have to make all of the gussets, and then I have to figure out where the axles are gonna go roughly. We're gonna do the axles in a different video, but I need to make sure that I have the hangers, I have enough width where the hangers are gonna go for those axles to mount. So I'm gonna go figure out that, cut out a whole bunch of these gussets, and then weld those things up into place, and then flip the trailer over, and then fully weld the other side, smooth it out, and add the last remaining couple of gussets. I'm gonna make the gussets by hand. I'm gonna use my plasma cutter. I'm gonna just simply place down a little jig, a little guide rail to cut out 4-inch squares, and then I'm gonna hand cut that 45 degree because I have to make 30 of these gussets for all of the different joints in here. I'm gonna gusset every single 90-degree angle on the main frame of the trailer. I'm not gusseting the front angles, which is why I was thinking about adding a top plate to work as a sort of gusset, but I'm not currently planning on gusseting these front angles. I might change my mind as we're going, but they're gonna be a little janky. In hindsight, I should have asked Matt to just plasma cut out all 30 of these for me, but I didn't, and I'm kind of on a tight timeline for this trailer. I've got a few days right now where I can get the bulk of this done, and I've got a couple of weekends, but really I'm going on this trip in like 2.5 months, so it needs to be done before that. So anyways, let me go do a little bit of math, and let me go cut out all of these gussets, and I'll catch up with you guys in a minute.
Why I feel like a number. They keep a secret into their mind. They never talk even for telling lies. Make me feel at least like a monster. Make me feel at least like a fire. It seems I can't find a place to go. There's a world of things I'll never know.
Okay, so we have the top side of the trailer all finished up. Let me walk you guys around real quick and show you what the top side looks like. We'll flip it over, welding montage, weld out the bottom side of it, and that's going to complete this video. Okay, so starting from the tongue up here, you can see we have our Harbor Freight coupler welded into the main receiver tube here around all 3 of those sides. I also plug welded the top 2, and I drilled bolt holes through the sides of this. I just need to attach the bolts still. But there's going to be bolts and all the welds holding the coupler onto the front of the trailer. So I saw after the fact somebody used one of these receiver tubes and they left a little bit sticking out so that you could have a removable coupler. In hindsight, that would have been really nice, really clever, but I didn't do that, so oh well. As you can see, I've not cleaned up any of this yet. That's going to come before I paint it, so there's a little bit of weld splatter and stuff like that. But you can see we have our main receiver tube sleeved over the top of our main body tube, welded on all 4 sides at the back here, also with a bolt through it on that side. We've got our straight angled crossbars up here at the front, the 2 of them, and then we have gussets that are down here. So all of the joints, every single one of them has a full gusset around it, but we've got that up there, so that is the front of it. This hole that you can see here is going to be my access hole for running my wires to the back of the trailer. I might drill this out a little bit bigger. That's kind of small, but for right now it'll work. Going back here, you can see where we have this terminated. I cleaned up these corners just to kind of smooth it out a little bit. I know when you do that, you lose a lot of your weld strength, but that's okay because there's another weld here, another weld there, another weld on the inside, and all of these gussets tying this all together. As you can see, our gussets on both sides of that joint there. Little peek of that. And then we have the inside ones are all diamond gussets like that and going the whole way along the trailer. Kind of like all that. The gussets are not that pretty. I wish I'd had Matt plasma cut them all out for me, but I didn't, so they look a little rough. I didn't go through and like clean them all and make them all identical, but that's okay. You're not going to be able to really see them. There's going to be a floor and stuff on this anyways. And they're just as structurally strong like this, even if they aren't perfectly straight lines. But you can see all that. Peep some of those welds. Coming back here, we have another access hole. On this side, there's a matching one on that side, so the wires are going to run through the center tube, and there's 2 holes on the inside here that we drilled earlier, and then everything is going to run out to the sides on each side, and I'm going to do a little outrigger thing here to hold the light onto. Really simple light plan there. I'm going to do the same outriggers up here later on to do the fenders and some other stuff, but that is the basic idea. All right, let's flip this thing around and get it welded.
Everywhere I go, I'm always on my own. Can anyone just catch me before I drown? Can anybody make me feel like I'm not a stranger tonight? I finally know why I can't look further. I finally know why they don't speak louder. There is a secret that won't be mine. They'll never talk until the end of time. Make me feel at least like a monster. Make me feel at least like a fire. It seems I can find a place to go. There's a world of things.
Alright, so we got the trailer completely welded up, and that's going to call it for the end of this project. I'm not going to walk you guys back around it because the bottom of the trailer looks identical to the top of the trailer, but instead we're going to just talk about the wrap up on this. So this is going to be a multi-part build series, of course, like most of the things that I build, and I'm going to try to consolidate all of the cost, all the designs, etc., etc. For the designs, you can follow along with the videos, or you can go to our website and you can buy the whole packet of designs, a little book that I'm going to put together for this in the future once that's ready. You'll have to wait for the trailer to be finished because I'm like actively building the book as I build the trailer, so I know what to include or what not to include. But we got this all done. So in total, we've got the trailer base frame done. So if you want to know how to make a simple 5x8 trailer, this is how you do it. Just a simple rectangle. It should be more than sturdy enough, and most importantly, or something that's important to me, is it should be very low to the ground. So again, I'm going to be towing this behind a Subaru, so I need it to be kind of low to the ground, but with enough ground clearance, so it should be fine. Anyways, let's roll up cost and time. So for time, I built this in one day. Now, granted, I have all of the tools and everything like that to make this relatively quick, but I did build this in one day, about a 7.5 hour day, including about a half-hour break for lunch in the middle there. But call it one day. Granted, a lot of that saved me a lot of time was having the Certiflat table. It made layout a lot easier. I was able to just place things onto there, square it up, and then I was able to start welding and getting it going. But, you know, one full day. In terms of cost, let's see. So I bought 4 sticks of 2x2x8. They're $130 a stick down here near me. So it came out to $510 in total for the 2x2. Now, I did not use 10 feet of that stick. I only used, or of those sticks. I only used the 50 feet of it, or sorry, the 70 feet of it, not the whole 80 feet of it. Also for my steel yard, I got that 3/16 plate. Now, I'm friends with the guys at my steel yard, and they did give me that plate. It was a scrap drop off of something they were plasma cutting, so they gave me that plate for free. If you had to buy that plate, add another like $30, $40 onto it, but I didn't have to. So call it about $500 for the frame. Now we have the coupler and the receiver tube and a bolt that I had laying around, and eventually 2 more bolts that I'm gonna have laying around. So the receiver tube and the coupler was $60 at Harbor Freight. So add that whole thing. You should be looking at, if you have to buy everything, under $600 for the basic frame of this. Now for this build, I am gonna try to keep this relatively budget. I was shooting for a budget of like $200 to $2,500, but I think it's gonna be a little closer to $3,000, but I'm gonna stick underneath $3,000 for sure. I just think it's creeping up a little bit with like the cost of like hinges and a few other things that are just adding on a little bit of a surprise cost, but that's okay. So we've got the frame done. Now the next video, I'm going to hang the axle, and I'm gonna finish up a couple of small gussets on the frame. I wanna do some corner gussets down here on the underside of the frame, so we're going to do all those while we hang the axle. But that'll be the next one, is getting the axle, hanging it, and putting that whole thing together, and show you guys how that goes together. So that'll be the next one. I'm going to actually do that tomorrow, but this video should be coming out now, and then you'll get the axle video next week. So I hope you guys like this. This was a really fun project to start off with. I haven't built anything in a really long time. I'm really excited for how this camper is going to come together, hopefully in the future. But if you have any critiques, comments, or questions, feel free to let me know down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.